edition of the Nigerian Leadership Series. And the chairman and founder of the Africa Leadership Group today will be the speaker today. He is a man that needs no introduction from any of us, but I will try to introduce him. He is a mentor, a nation builder. He's a humble, selfless, and generous servant leader in all spheres. He's the chairman and founder of the African Leadership Group and also the president of Rebuild Nigeria. He is going to be speaking to us today on the new Nigeria he sees and the new Nigeria we should all see and how we get there. Good evening, sir, and welcome to the guest seat today.
Good evening. It's interesting to be on this side of the divide. Thank you very much for, well, should I say for having me? Thank you.
Yes, we are glad to have you. And we are going to be asking all the hard questions. But let's start off with the current state of the nation. I know you talk about this all the time: weakening leadership, poor governance, moral decadence, endemic corruption, and we can go on and on and on and on about the list of what we are dealing with in Nigeria. And the pain and suffering of all the citizens, both rich and poor, cry. How did we get here? And what kind of leadership does the country need to get us back on the right track? So let's start with that, sir.
How did Nigeria get here? Most people who have heard me talk before will know that I always reiterate and I repeat that the foundation on which the so-called Nigeria was built was a wrong foundation. Nigeria has never been a nation. Nigeria was a creation, first of all, of UAC, which used to be called the Niger Delta or the Niger whatever trading company in those days, founded by an English gentleman who came to West Africa largely to exploit and explore and trade in palm oil. That was the origin. And he therefore got the title to the area known as the Southern Protectorate, where he wanted to harvest his palm oil. And he began that trade, and it was very profitable. It became very profitable, so much so that it attracted the attention of the British monarchy. So when I am a bit hard on the British monarchy, this is part of the reason why. And they then got interested and wanted a piece of the action. Eventually, they compelled this man to sell that area to them at about 780-something thousand pounds in those days. So the British became the owners of the landmass of largely the Southern Protectorate. Along the line, they added the Northern Protectorate and also the Protectorate of Southern Cameroon. And they became the dominant force in that area and began to trade largely with Nigeria, with Nigerians exploiting palm produce, agricultural produce. Some slavery too was there at the time, okay. They exploited human beings back to the Caribbeans, to South Africa, to South America, to Britain and places like that. So Nigeria was founded for British interests, and therefore enough education was to be provided for clerical staffing so that Nigerians could be clerical staff to support the British Empire. And then once in a while, you sneaked off a lawyer here and then a doctor there. Again, economic. Who is going to be shipping to Nigeria medical personnel and nursing personnel to Nigeria? If you could train some of the locals to do that work. So a lot of the Nigerians that were trained as interpreters and clerks and assistants and supports to the British master. Okay. And formally in 1914, the Protectorate of the North, and the Protectorate of the South was merged together to form this area that was named by a lady called Flora Shaw, the consort or the girlfriend of a man called Frederick Lugard, who had now, a retired major from the army, been made the first colonial master or the governor general of this area called Nigeria. And the statement at the founding of Nigeria, which was put together by a man called Lord Harcourt, after which Port Harcourt is named now, says that he has done his job. The southern bride has been prepared for her northern husband. May the union be constant, may it be fruitful, and may the, what's his name, Lugard, now preside over the wedding ceremony. Again, the Southern Protectorate was merged with the Northern Protectorate because the British no longer wanted to be funding the North because the South was profitable, was making money, the North wasn't making as much. So they wanted the South to fund the growth and development of the North. And most of the infrastructure that was put in Nigeria at that time was just sufficient such that you could get to the natural resources that were in the various areas of Nigeria. And that's how Britain ran Nigeria. They ran Nigeria to fund their own economy. If you go to Britain today, you say you want English tea, you most likely will find that the tea was grown in Kenya or was grown in India. If you want diamonds in Britain, you find that the diamonds came from South Africa, plus and including the diamonds on the crown of the Queen, or maybe now the King. The railway system, the underground, a lot of slave labor went into building those things, and so on and so forth. So it's purely economic, and not to forge together a nation that would be of any great benefit to itself. And again, the British and the colonial masters, typical as they do, introduced a lot of bad habits into our lexicon. They introduced homosexuality. If you read a book by a guy called Forsyth, who was a colonial master here in the late 50s and early 60s, it tells you the rampant homosexuality that was practiced by a lot of the British colonialists then. They introduced corruption. They ensured that a lot of the leaders that they put in political office were perhaps the most corrupt of the lot. If you stand or dare to stand firm and straight, they ostracize you, they embarrass you, and they found a way to blackmail you. It is rumored that some of our leaders, I don't want to mention names at this point in time, were blackmailed into accepting offices less than they were worth and all that. And so they ensured that the structure, the regional structure was lopsided, such that the center would be dominated by a particular tribe, largely the Hausa Fulanis, to be honest. They came up with a census that today is not verifiable, and so on and so forth. And they made it a little bit difficult to have a smooth growth and progress of Nigeria. And the coup then came in 1966, led by young army officers. I can say also, I can almost say for sure that there's no way we could have had that coup without some kind of British support, at the very least, if not instigated by them, to bring about a unitary government and to destroy this so-called federalism that we had compelled them to put us into. Awolowo, Zik, and the Saldana, when they were leaving. And the federalism, to their shock, was working because Awolowo, especially in Western Nigeria, was driving an aggressive development plan, free education. I'm told that when the colonial masters saw that what was left in the treasury by then was funding education. They called him and cautioned him that that's not what that money is meant for. That money is meant for produce development, not educating your people. But Awolowo, being a product of education, knew the power of knowledge and information, and then went on to build infrastructure, went on to build conglomerates like the Ituah Group that you see today, went on to build the Cocoa House, the Liberty Stadium, WNTV, WNBS, first in Africa, and so on and so forth, and started a healthy competition and rivalry among the regions, which Zik also took up in Eastern Nigeria, built the second television radio station and called it second to none. So I would have called his own first in Africa. Zik called his own second to none. And of course, the North also woke up and started running after these two regions. And if they had left us like that, without the military coup, we would have evolved into a very strong society, almost like Singapore, I dare say, because of the competition that was going on in Nigeria and because of the infrastructure that was being built upon and laid by the different regions. Please know that we had no significant oil at that time. Nigeria was built on the back of cocoa, cotton from the north, palm oil, palm kernel from the south, and places like that, rubber, and all manners of crops. And at that time, our economy was stronger, or as strong as British economy. Our Nigerian pound was 2 pounds, 2 British pounds, such that by the time we came up with the Naira, a Naira was equal, and Naira was 10 shillings. If any people who remember history, you had 20 shillings made 1 pound. It was pounds, shillings, pence that we were spending in Nigeria. And when we started to go into Naira, we went to 10 shillings, became 1 Naira. And 1 Naira was equivalent to 95 pence. So we're strong economy at the time. And then, of course, the war came, and so on and so forth. So the army, not understanding the regionalization and the structure, came up with their command and control structure. They came up with nepotism. They came up with all manners of bad practices, and corruption started becoming part of our lexicon and part of our culture. I'm not saying that the politicians of the 60s were not corrupt. There were some of them that were corrupt, but there was a lot of show and tell and counting out and so on and so forth. And there was fear. There was respect for law. So the corruption, you cannot compare to what it is today. And this is why Nigeria has descended. When you have rulers that cannot be questioned, especially the military, who ruled by decree, who ruled by fiat, who ruled by fear and the barrel of the gun, they really stifled development. So anybody saying that the British, the British or the military should come back doesn't know what they're saying. They don't understand what collective and effective leadership means, where you can speak truth to power. You couldn't talk to the military boys. They did whatever they wanted. They put us into OIC. It's funny that Buhari, the same Buhari who stopped the metro rail of Lagos in 1983-84, is the same one coming to ride in a train almost 40 years later in this same Lagos. It's a pure irony. The very train station that he stopped is what he's coming to ride in and commission 40 years later. That's the level of knowledge and understanding of the military at that time. There was no real need, no real passion for development. You know, even Gawan, who did the best of the lot, did it on the back of a very, very strong civil service that was very well produced. The AIDAs, the Asiodus, the Ekons, and so on and so forth of those days, who ran the Damshidas. Even Shagari was a big part of it, but when he became president, he didn't perform as well, so surprisingly. And the civil service was destroyed by successive military governments. The purge of the civil service in 1976-77 was one of the things that totally destroyed the civil service and made civil servants very, very lecherous and very, very corrupt and wanting to look out for themselves, because people were suddenly fired overnight when part of what you got as a civil servant was almost permanency of tenure and growth and reliability and predictability. But you woke up one day and you were fired. And therefore, those who were left behind were some of the very worst ones. And then they decided that they will help themselves into the till and make as much money for themselves as they could before some military guy will wake up one day and fire them again. And that is what led to the decay. And this is why Nigeria is what it is. And then the family values were lost, family values that were gently building up based on right teaching and right this thing. When the military came in and anything worked, the values were lost. The values were lost in the home. The values were lost in the schools. And we have now become a nation that in the very home where people are brought up, there are no values. It's just struggle. Everything became jungle. Anything goes. And this is why we have inappropriate leadership today, because the homes and the value system was lost in the 60s and in the 70s. And that's why we're where we are. So it's a big struggle. It's a big struggle. It's a big struggle. Changing Nigeria is not just a question of getting the right leadership. It's a question of reorientating the average Nigerian to know what is right from wrong, what is good from bad. A lot of Nigerians on the streets, these young ones, don't really know it. Those who are complaining now, NSAS and all that, they're just frustrated. They don't know whether it's good or bad. They just know that this thing is not working for them. They have no hope. They have no future. It's not to say that they themselves, if they get to positions of leadership, will not behave as badly or be corrupt or whatever, because that's just the law. That's just the rule. Today, if you try to be a straightforward, honest person, the system will eat you up. The system will crush you. The system will fight you. The system will say to you, now is it your money? Is government money? Why are you standing in the way of those of us who want to make money? Civil servants remain civil servants until they get to the position where they themselves can corruptly enrich themselves, and so on and so forth. If you did an audit of civil servants today in most civil services, they are not living on their income. It's not possible. The salaries are so poor anyway, and yet they're surviving. Some of them have houses all over the place, send children abroad. How are they doing it? When you know their salary, the military too, they're not living on their income. Corruption everywhere. And unless we reorientate the average Nigerian, rebase and restructure the society, we'll just be begging the question. We'll be begging the question. We really will be begging the question. People don't just understand that we're in really, really difficult situation.
Thank you so much for laying for giving context to the discussion today and the need to move forward. So that brings us to the second question. You've talked about reorientation of the average Nigerian or all Nigerians. And I want you to please speak to us about our role and our responsibility in this reorientation or reformation. I like to call it reformation. We do need social reforms as individuals, the corporate sector, the religious sector, because we tend to hone in on the political leaders, but we have leaders in all the communities. So if you could speak on the roles of all these different leaders that we have in the community. What is the role of the press, the NGOs, the traditional rulers, even the elites? If you can, what are roles and responsibility in this reorientation and this reformation so that we as Nigeria can get back on track?
Well, we Nigerians must first of all accept, the average Nigerian must first of all accept that Nigeria as it is not working for the ordinary person. It may be working for those in power, may be working for those in high places of authority, and maybe for a few people who have been able to break the back of the system. But for the average Nigerian on the streets, it is not working. So we need to get together in groups from the family, from the schools, from the churches, from the mosques, civil society, little groups, association, clubs, and the discussion on our lips should be, how can we make Nigeria work? What are the things that we need to do to make Nigeria work? You know, we have two options. Either the Lord Almighty, and I don't want to say this, but either the Lord Almighty gives us with a leader who understands what time it is, like Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore, either that, or a group of elites who know a bit better, and there are very few of them, come together and they want to sacrificially make this investment in Nigeria. There are very few. A lot of them are being frustrated because it's an expensive business and they're being shouted down. Or we Nigerians now, you know, I spoke to a Nigerian leader, I won't tell you his name, when I was running around anxious for Nigeria, saying, we can't continue like this. Are you people going to sit back and be looking at Nigeria? At that time, the candidates hadn't emerged, and we could see the kind of candidates that were going to emerge. I said, if we're going to sit back and look and allow these candidates emerge again, these people that we know their backgrounds and their antecedents, are you just going to sit there and just allow it? Aren't you going to, as fathers of Nigeria, leaders of Nigeria, people who should know better, aren't you going to gather together and see how you can help a process bring forth better candidature and so on and so forth? And one of them said to me that, well, Pastor, the people are not ready. Nigerians are not ready. He says the suffering is not enough. He says we have not suffered enough. We are not enough pain, such that we now want to rise up and say we must fight this pain. He says until people get to that threshold where things seem a bit okay, I can still manage through, I can still make a deal, I can still run for office, I can still be a sycophant and make money, and so on and so forth. Until they get to that stage, they won't rise up. And that's part of Nigeria's problem. We haven't quite gotten to that stage where people are saying, you know what, this is going to be a Nigerian spring, an Arab spring. This suffering is too much. Now people are beginning to see it when you can't even find currency for the first time. You can't get currency to spend in Nigeria because some people woke up with a good idea, but very bad implementation, just to corner a few people and disrupt some people's plans. You know, somebody was saying to me that we know the people are hoarding money. They're not more than 36 of them, 50 of them, hiding money in various houses and bullion vans and things. Why don't you simply go and arrest the money they're hiding? You know where the money is. You knew before you made this policy. Why are you making the poor man on the streets suffer this inconvenience, people breaking bank ATMs, making it seem as though it's the banks that are incompetent and not giving out money, and just again having innocent banks be the cannon fodder for a policy that wasn't well thought out, when you knew exactly where you are going and the people you wanted to catch who had been hoarding money. Why don't you just bring them out and persecute them for hoarding money and not allowing there to be money in the system, and so on and so forth? Maybe there's no law that allows you to do that. But you can ask a person, why are you putting $1 billion in a house? Why? This is Nigeria's money. It should be in the bank. What are you doing with it? You know, and so on and so forth. But here we are with this policy that's making money difficult, making petrol, you can't find petrol to buy in a country that produces oil. There's no power, there's no infrastructure, and people are still don't think that we have gotten to the brink. When are we going to get to the brink? You know, you can't go from Lagos to Ibadan. I'm not sure you get there. You are sitting in your office, bandits walk in with guns, they tie you up, they arrest your people, they carry them away. I have a friend of mine, bandits were looking for him. They came to his office, didn't find him, took away 4 of his staff. They took 20 million away from him to get the staff back. The guy is traumatized. He can't go back to work. He's so scared. He's supposed to do a paper for me or get me some documents since 3 weeks. He says he just doesn't have the frame of mind to get me my documents. And I have to sit and wait because bandits walked in and walked out. They called him. The phones are working. Nobody can do anything. The police they are helpless in a country like Nigeria, where today the Google map will tell you where there's traffic in Shagamu. You can't find bandits. It's just government is absent. The ungoverned country. That's what it is. And but people still say the suffering is not enough. When is it going to be enough? So until Nigerians rise up and say, look, you know what? Let us come together. What is in the best interest of Nigeria? What do we need to do? What do I need to give up to make sure this country works for the ordinary person? And we all walk towards that, and not necessarily, how am I going to move so that I can corner money and become governor, or corner money, the governor is my best friend. Let me go and do some contracts and make money and then enjoy myself. Meanwhile, your cousin is not going to school. Your cousin in the village has to trek 20 miles before they get water. And you are living large in Lagos, in Banana Island, in Ikoyi, going first class, driving private jets up and down, drinking 1 million naira champagne. And then your gate man cannot send his children to school. And you think it's okay. How can it be okay? How can it be okay? You are not paying your driver well, and you are drinking 1 million naira worth of champagne, and you are serving it at your party, and you are not giving your staff bonus. How can it be okay? It can't be okay. There's something wrong somewhere. And this is what it is. Even the people who make champagne don't drink it like that. Nigeria has the highest rate of Rolls Royces almost in the world. Some Nigerians own 3, they own 4, 5. Nobody does that. Even the Queen of England, with all her money, had only 2 Rolls Royces. It's just unbelievable in Nigeria what we do. It's unbelievable. People have 5 houses, 1 house in the village, 2 houses in Lagos, 1 house in Abuja, 1 house in Port Harcourt, 1 person. And then 1 in London, 1 in America, 1 person. And this is how we live in Nigeria. It's normal. And yet some people can't go to school and so on and so forth. It's very, very unfortunate. We need to sit together and reorientate ourselves and talk to ourselves and say, let us be fair to Nigeria. Let us be fair to this country. Let us be fair to the ordinary people who are not as privileged as some of us. How can we make Nigeria work for them? And until we do that and tell ourselves the truth and do less of greed, selfishness, and personal interest, it's not going to work. So as many people that understand this should begin to say it. Nigerians were too greedy, were too selfish, were too self-orientated. And it's almost all of us, including the poor ones, the so-called underprivileged. Because you'll be surprised that when these people find an opportunity and get to a place of power, they do even worse than the people they've been criticizing all along. It's just a question of them not having gotten there yet. So we really, really need a lot of people like yourself, like myself, to begin to speak a bit more and talk a bit more and engage people a bit more and tell people that really there is right and there's wrong. And it's a reducing class. There's not many people like that anymore. And those who are there are getting tired. A friend of mine who's been in this political struggle just last night was telling me that if this struggle for a new Nigeria fails this time, that he's leaving the country. Just last night was telling me. I said, I've given up.
You mentioned if we as Nigerians, if we get the opportunity to steal or to do something that will add to the suffering of the people, we do. And I'm looking at the present situation we are in right now, where POS people are selling people's money to them. at exorbitant rates. Then you look at the fuel attendants that are also collecting money for people to be able to pump petrol at the stations. And then there was a video that was circulating of an INEC official that was charging people 1,000 naira for them to collect their PVC. Where do we start from? Because I mean, it seems like a very grim picture, but I know there is hope, and we're all trying to do our part. But where do we start this reorientation? We point a lot to the political leaders that's where we need reformation, and we haven't really been focusing on other sectors. How do we reform the religious sector? All the sectors that have contributed to the present situation. Where do we start from?
Well, that's one of the reasons why we have the African Leadership Group and this Nigerian Leadership Series. I just decided that in my own little corner, I needed to spread my gospel and what I believed in to a few more people. And over the last 2 years, largely initially at my expense, until the structure came in and other people like yourselves and Sonny and people like that, Lara and co started coming in to chip in. There should be a lot more initiatives like the ALG all over the place, but you find that a lot of people say, what's my own? I haven't paid my children's school fees. Kilo coming, what's my own? And this is where the problem is. There's not enough sacrificial Nigerians who are ready to pay a price to make Nigeria change. And there's no society that changes without somebody or the other paying some kind of price. So this is what we want to do. We want to continue with platforms like ALG. We want to partner with other similar platforms that have no personal agenda. And we want to continue to speak and to speak and to speak and to speak and to educate Nigerians. To do this thing in Nigeria is going to take a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of effort. You need to speak to Nigeria at 3 or 4 levels. Number one, at the level of leadership, being able to speak truth to power. That's very expensive because you cannot criticize somebody today and go to him tomorrow to ask him for a favor. And if you're not doing business with government in Nigeria, it's unlikely that you're going to make any kind of significant kind of money in this country. Everybody, even the traders, have had to deal with government one way or the other. The other day, some governor was saying that some banks who don't give out money is going to take away their C of O, just like that. A bank that has gone to your states to set up an office, they've invested, they're employing staff, they're paying taxes. Now, just because of currency, you're going to take away their C of O and close the business down, just like that. And that's the power of government. Okay, so here you are, you've worked hard, you set up your bank, you got your banking license. Then one day, one governor wakes up and is going to shut your bank down. And you have no recourse. You can't go to the courts to tell them that he can't do it. You can't beg anybody because the courts belong to him also, or they belong to the federal government. So you are just wasting your time. That's how powerful government is. And until we have an enlightened society where the beggar on the streets has his own rights, and you cannot stamp on that right, we're going to continue to have this kind of problem. So that's why people are afraid to speak truth to power. If you go to any of these big businessmen today, and I can mention all their names, or these owners of banks and bank MDs, they say, we're neutral, we're neutral, we're neutral. We're banks, we're neutral, we're neutral. You can't be neutral. How can you be neutral when your livelihood depends on it? We're neutral, we're neutral, we're neutral. We're professionals, we're neutral. Then tomorrow they pass a law, and the law affects your business. Then you begin to shout. So the second group of people we need to talk to is the average Nigerian. They have this Department of Social Orientation, or NAMSA, or whatever they used to call it. Again, they died on the bed of corruption. We need to talk to Nigerians. You know, a friend of mine, Jimmy Disu, I enjoy listening to his program on radio. He's talking very loudly at the top of it. One day I asked him, I said, Jimmy, they will come and carry you. He said, let them come. He says, at my age, what else am I waiting for? Let them come. They will come, no problem. Let them come. You know, he's the one who keeps laughing at me and saying, who does that? From the video that I did the other day. Who does that? Who does that? You know, and then we need to talk to the youth, the young people who today are really looking for leadership. They're looking for direction. They're looking for encouragement, okay? So as many programs as you can do and take to them and say, Nigeria of tomorrow belongs to you. This is right, this is wrong, this is good, this is bad. Reorientate yourselves and so on and so forth. It's not going to work. So, and then there needs to be a lot more investment in education in Nigeria. Education and enlightenment. It's only in Nigeria that you find, maybe other parts of Africa, I don't know, that literacy or illiteracy has been weaponized. Some people deliberately don't want some people to be educated so that they will know right from wrong. They will know how to defend themselves. They will know how to vote. They will know how to ask for what is legally theirs. They will know how to question bad tax laws. They won't know anything. They just sit on the floor waiting for largesse from government, and people are enjoying it. So we need to really educate people and get them informed. The only reason why I'm here talking like this is because I received some form of education. There's no way my cousin in the village can dare come and say he's going to be doing ALG. How? From where? But because God privileged me to be exposed, to have education, to talk to people from other countries, I know things can be better. So we need to fight. It's a big fight. And as many people as are listening to me today needs to know that they are part of that fight. It's like people saying that they won't vote tomorrow. Why will you not vote on Saturday? How will you not vote? Then you want to come back and grumble on Sunday or Monday or Tuesday when they've announced a president, and the president comes and, like they said in the Bible, he will take your wives, he will take your children, he will take your land, he will take your liberty, and then you say you won't vote. You will vote now. So everybody must get involved. It's important. It's like my pastor friends, they say they don't have a position. They don't have a position, this and that. You know that in my church, there are all sorts of people. I know, but it's your position. You should tell them that this is my position. I'm not saying that you should necessarily follow me, but this is my position. You know, the other day, one of our big bishops was praying. We have offended you, God. We've offended you, God. We've offended you, God. No, it's not God who's going to come down and vote on Saturday. It's human beings who are going to vote. God has created the voting system and allowed you to use it. Go tell your people to vote. The reason why we are crying this way is that for the past 24 years, since 1999, we've been indifferent. Anybody who likes to go and do politics, the church shouldn't get involved. And anybody who did politics, and now the church is suffering, or whatever it is, everybody is suffering because we're indifferent. It's not possible. If Nathan had not challenged David, David would have made a mess of his kingship. And that's the way it's supposed to be. Everybody is involved, and everybody must have a position. And that's what I think. And it doesn't have to be the best position, but you should have a position. Okay, but we should now look and be fair to one another. What is right for Nigeria? What is right for Nigeria? And that's where we're going today.
I want to bring it a little bit on a personal level to you. It's often said that Nigeria is like an orphan, but you're Nigeria's father, you're Nigeria's brother, you're Nigeria's son, and you're very passionate and zealous for the good of Nigeria, tireless. You speak, you're outspoken about it, you drive for the good of Nigeria. What motivates you to do that? What is that thing that just gives you almost like, I'm trying, just an abandonment to the good of Nigeria? What is it, or maybe two things that you can say inspires you or motivates you to be this zealous for a country that everyone just says this is how it's going to be?
I think, first of all, it's my nature. Most people who know me, it's not just Nigeria. I like things to be better all the time. You know, I can come into your house, and I do it a lot. I go into people's houses and I look around the house and I say to myself, this house can be better. You know, I've gone into people's houses, I walked away and sent in a set of builders and painters and redecorators into the house without asking for their permission. Well, I could do it because I'm their pastor sometimes. And this house can be better. You come into my office, I look at you up and down, and I say, this person can dress better. You know, I go to your business like I did today. I had a business meeting with a friend of mine, and we're talking. I say, I can help you make this business better. I can help you make this business sustainable. It's my nature to just go in somewhere and try and make things better. Even in America, when I go there, I look around. I say, things can be better here. I go to Britain, the same thing. I go to Brixton, and I say to myself, Brixton doesn't have to be this way. We can make things better. So I just have that innate character in me to make things better for people. You know, nobody comes to me with a problem and leaves with that problem, except they are one of those people who are incessantly not trying to help themselves. I just try to help, to make things better. And I was born in Nigeria. I grew up in Nigeria. I see the potential in Nigeria. I see how Nigeria can be. I see the possibilities. And I'm saying to myself, why can't we make it work? You know, why can't we make it work? This is Nigeria. If we make Nigeria work, Africa can be transformed. If Africa is transformed, the world is transformed. That's the first motivation. It's my nature, it's my character, it's my being, it's my DNA. The second is that I grew up with a civil service mother and a civil service father. My mother was the first female permanent secretary in Nigeria. She ran the civil service, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Information, Ministry of Trade and Industry. She was chairman of all the companies that they call the Ituah Group today. She was a woman of excellence, a woman of growth. We pray for Nigeria since I was born. We've always prayed for Nigeria in my home. My mother, the only legacy she left behind for me was a ministry of restoration into holiness, a ministry to restore Nigeria back into holiness. That's the full meaning of that ministry. And a chapel wherein till today, as I speak, there's prayer going for Nigeria. So my mother in particular, my father to a small extent, were Nigerian-centric. My father ran for governorship in Edo State in 1979 against Ambrose Ali at the primaries. He lost. He lost because he was too naive. He lost because he was too honest. He lost because he was trying to compete fairly. And he lost because he didn't have enough resource. He just thought that I am a good man, I'm a nice man, I'm an upright man, I'm offering myself for elections. And that was the second or third time he was running, until they almost tied around his neck a murder case. His driver was almost killed by some political, whatever it was, they set him up, the guy almost died. That's when he finally sort of came back home, especially after the coup in 1983. So he himself wanted to position himself in a place of leadership and leadership to serve. I was one of the people that sort of discouraged him that this politics is bad. Why are you wasting your time and money? I regret it till tomorrow that I didn't support him politically at that time, you know, because that was the narrative we were sold. So I grew up in Nigeria. I grew up Nigerian-centric. I grew up with parents that loved Nigeria, that prayed for Nigeria, that sacrificed for Nigeria, that took no nonsense. I can say categorically that neither of my parents ever took a bribe or were corrupt. Neither of them. I can say categorically. And if they did it, they must have hidden the money very carefully because I didn't see it, you know. I didn't see it. My parents lived on their income, natural income, what they did, and they were in positions where they could have enriched themselves. My father was the chief accountant of Midwest Nigerian Development Corporation. He got fired from that job because he refused to sign off to corruption by leaders and chairmen of that corporation at the time. So they said, this guy is a pig in a manger. He's not going to cooperate. And they trumped up something against him. And they were going to fire him until the Civil War came. And the Civil War disrupted that process. But after that, my mom says, better come back to Ibadan and let's continue our lives. This sacrifice is too much. He was living in Benin. We were living in Ibadan, traveling up the expressway or whatever every day for this same Nigeria. So I grew up in that environment of making Nigeria great. That's what I was. It's like they were asking, what's his name, Tiger Woods, how come you play golf so well? He says, I grew up looking at a golf ball. They put a golf ball in my pram. So I grew up looking at a golf ball. I grew up looking at Nigeria and how to make Nigeria great. So I can't do otherwise. I can't. I sleep, dream, and think how to make Nigeria great. I think it every day.
Thank you. Thank you for that. That's I think that's a lesson for even those that are raising families now. The values that you teach or you pass on to your children now is a reflection of who they are in society. I know a lot of people are waiting to ask you questions, so we're going to take 2 questions, and then Lara will launch the poll, the election polls. So let's talk about this upcoming election. And everyone is hanging their hat on it that this is like the make or mar of Nigeria, and this is what's going to turn things around for us. This appears to be, by so far, the most important election in Nigeria's history. Why is that? And why are we as Nigerians really looking forward to this election and hoping that this is the change that is going to help get us back on the right track?
Because all of a sudden there's increased awareness and knowledge. Hitherto, most people have been indifferent. Government go, government come. Let me just mind myself in my corner. But sometimes I say the government of Muhammad Buhari has been good for Nigeria. Good in the sense that it really, really awakened a sleeping tiger. We're already getting irritated with Goodluck Jonathan, to be honest. We had hoped that Goodluck Jonathan would do better, but their brazenness, their corruption, their arrogance made people say, no, 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 no. Jonathan, you must be more decisive. And what happened was that everybody thought that at least Buhari will come in and give us some level of discipline. People like me didn't expect any rocket science from him because I'd had an encounter with Buhari once, and it's not a story I make public. But after that encounter, I said to myself that this man is not capable of leading Nigeria well. I said it to myself, and I do say it to some people in private because he clearly didn't know exactly what he wanted to do if he was given the leadership of Nigeria. He may not remember that encounter, but I can never forget. But I thought, that he would at least, based on reputation that we had of him in 1983-84, stern, ramrod, strict disciplinarian, war against indiscipline and war against corruption, that at least he will stem the tide of corruption, okay? And people like Bola Tinubu, to be honest, sort of re-rolled or convinced or encouraged people like us to say, well, let's give him a chance, because he was his prime promoter, and he and I were quite close at the time. And he kept on saying, let's give Buhari a chance. Let's give him a chance. Okay, all right, no problem. Jonathan seems to have done so badly anyway, so okay. But I knew deep down within me that we were not going to get any kind of rocket science here, but at least corruption will be stemmed. But what happened? Even the corruption became worse under his watch. We didn't know that it was Tunde Idiagbon that had been doing a lot of that work in that 83, 84. And anybody can say that I'm wrong. I will apologize if you say that I'm wrong. So this is what happened. The corruption became worse. President was absent. He wasn't taking decisions. People were taking decisions in his name and giving us convoluted policy somersaults. There was no anchor. There was no clear vision. There was no direction. The Bible says that there were the days when Israel had no king. Everybody did as they wished. And even at the time, Kyari was trying to run the economy in a way. It was a bit uncomfortable for some of us, but at least there was some direction. Speaking in the name of the president, the minute we lost Kyari, the whole thing fell apart, and everybody did as they wanted, and therefore there was no strong direction in Nigeria, and everything came from bad to worse. Bandits come and raid a place, nobody can arrest them. They took away the Chibok girls, then I think Chibok was in the Jonathan's time. Then they went to the other school again just to show Buhari that we can still take them even under your watch. They took them. Nobody said anything. Places in north central Nigeria are raided. Villages are ransacked. Nobody said anything. A Christian girl is preaching quietly in Abuja. She's killed on the streets. Nobody said anything. The same thing happened in Kano or Katsina or wherever. Some girl made a post about Jesus or whatever it is. Her friends in the university got angry. They lynched her. Nobody said anything. I mean, you just walk in, walk out, anything can happen. There was just no government on government spaces. And the people are sponsoring Boko Haram. We know how expensive it is to buy a gun. Fulani herdsmen are running up and down. The argument is whether people should be dragging cattle from Maiduguri to Lagos. I mean, who does that in 2021, 2022? That's the argument, whether we should drag cattle up and down. Nobody drags cattle anywhere. It's not good for the cattle. It's not good for the herdsman. It's not even good for the road that the cattle is being dragged on. And my president is saying we should go back to the ranching route or grazing route that the British left behind in 1940 something. Who does that? So the whole country came down, and we've never had it so bad. And then you had the NSAS, issue. And I find that very, very interesting. Your children are complaining that the security guard is treating them badly. Okay? Even say the children themselves are not behaving well. They are jumping your fence to go to party at night. Now they say when they are coming back home, the security guard makes them to do leapfrog, jump up and down, beats them with koboko here and there. That please tell this security guard to stop thinking that we're thieves. We're children of this house. We belong here. It shouldn't just because we didn't do our hair well or didn't cut our nails think that we're just we're thieves. Tell them to stop it or change the guard. The president says to me that he says to us that the children want to do a coup. They want to overthrow his government. How are they going to do that? They're just saying, talk to the guards on our behalf. Becomes another crisis. The children get killed on the streets here and there. Or they are threatened that they should stop it. They should stop complaining, and so on and so forth. And then, so all this has brought an awareness. Now, people are aware, that, what is going on here? What is going on here? this thing is getting bad. So people say, well, for once, let me get involved. Let me cast my vote. Let me vote, right or wrong, good or bad. Let me have a say. And that is why these elections are so critical, because of the level of awareness and the fear that if we don't sort of get it right, which we almost didn't get it right, and which we are not sure whether we'll get it right, we don't know what will happen in the next 4 years, and so on and so forth. So, and then look at the level at which our children are living in Nigeria. It's good and it's not good. It's good because they can go to other economies, maybe earn some foreign exchange and send the foreign exchange back home, or learn a bit more, get some more knowledge and information and ideas. In that way, it's good. But it's very, very bad, because these are the children who are supposed to be earning income in Nigeria, who are supposed to be building up the economy, who are supposed to be the productive sector, the most intelligent of the lot. And that service, that quality, that energy is being denied Nigeria and being served to other countries. If you go to England today, Nigerians are the backbone of the medical industry, the backbone of the colleges, lecturers, professors everywhere. It's the same in America. They're working their butt off, maintaining systems that are not theirs. And here at home, the whole thing is falling apart. So it's good in that way. It's not good because we need those resources. We need them to come back and build this economy. So that's why there was such a big diaspora movement and diaspora interest in Nigerian politics this time around. Because most of the people in diaspora, they really don't want to be there. They really don't want to be there. They're there. They are struggling. They have a better quality of life. They have predictability. They have safety. But they don't have that. They are homesick. They don't have
Community.
that community in Nigeria that they miss so much. And they want to come back home. And what they're saying to Nigeria today is, if we fix Nigeria, we will come back home. And we want them to come back home. And so on and so forth. This is why there's so much interest in these elections this time around.
So help us prepare for this, for Saturday. Last week, Sunday, you had a press conference on leadership criteria and what we should be looking for. And right after this, Lara is going to launch the poll. What should Nigerians be looking for in the leader that is going to help? And I don't know that one person can do it, but the qualities in that leader that is going to help steer us or get us back on track, what should they be looking for? And I know ALG, we produced a leadership assessment tool, and you spoke very passionately about the qualities of the leader that we need. Can you speak to Nigerians on what they should be looking for before they cast their vote?
You see, Nigerians are not even interested in any leader of any kind of quality. That's the truth. Most of them are looking for the person that will serve their own interests. Even as we go to the polls today, tomorrow on Saturday, that's the painful truth. Because when I listen to some people who should know better, and when they finish their analysis and so on and so forth, I just cringe inside me and I keep quiet. They're just looking for the person they think will win the election, and then they want to vote for that person. That's all. They're not looking for somebody who would really do right by Nigeria. They're not. It's just for them enlightened self-interest, who will win this election? And if this person comes in or that person comes in, how will it pay me? And so on and so forth. How would they just allow me to continue to do my business? And so on and so forth. That's all. That's the main criteria that Nigerians have today in choosing a leader. Well, that kind of a leader may not pay 200 20 million Nigerians, they will not pay. So it's like you are trying to fly in a plane, and you are looking for the pilot that will give you the best seats and serve you the best champagne and show you the best movies. That's your interest. You don't know whether the plane will land in Abuja or land in Heathrow or land in Singapore airport. You are not really bothered whether the pilot can fly that plane to Singapore. You are just looking for the pilot who will say, you know what, sit in this seat, eat this canapes, drink this champagne, enjoy this music. And as long as you are seated comfortably in that seat, you are not sure whether the plane will land. And that's where we're going. The plane of Nigeria may not land. And that's why people like me, I can't think about having a comfortable seat in the plane, because I'm afraid that the plane will not take off. And if it takes off, it may crash land. So I can't even think of tomorrow. I see my friends planning and thinking of tomorrow and making themselves more comfortable and structuring their businesses and so on and so forth. I say, I can't think, because I'm not sure that tomorrow there will be a Nigeria. Tomorrow there will be a plane. So what do you need in a pilot that's going to take you from Lagos to Washington, D.C. on Nigerian Airways or on Delta Air? The pilot must be well trained. He must know the job. You understand? The pilot must know the job very well. Number two, the pilot must be strong and capable and energized. You don't want a pilot who's going to fall asleep when you are crossing the Atlantic Ocean and going to kick off the automatic pilot. So the pilot must be strong, agile, competent. Number three, the pilot must love his plane. He must make sure that he's checked every part of the plane and the engineering is functioning, the hydraulics are functioning, the waiters or the, what you may call them, the hostesses are well, they've eaten, they are well ready to do their job, and so on and so forth. Not a pilot who doesn't care about the hostesses and so on and so forth. A lot of our pilots in Nigeria today don't care whether the masses eat or they don't eat. They really don't care. So you need a visionary leader. Your pilot must be able to see where the airport is in Dulles or where the airport is in Atlanta. How can you follow somebody who doesn't know where they're going, who doesn't have an idea where they're going? So you need a visionary, a person who sees where Nigeria should be. Then you need a pilot who is going to make sure there's harmony in the plane. Make sure that everybody's interest in the plane is covered. The people in first class, they're comfortable. The people in economy, they're not complaining. The people in business class, they are given their right cutlery. Everybody gets what they deserve inside that plane. Not that, it's only the people in first class I'm interested in. In fact, not just them, just this section of the people in first class. That's my interest. Our president said that some people didn't vote for him, so he doesn't care whether what happens to them. No, whether they voted for you or not, you are now the pilot. The plane must have harmony. Everybody must get what they paid for and make sure that they are well treated. You can't tell some people to go and get off the plane because they didn't appoint you, they didn't vote for you when they were making pilots. So we need a visionary leader. We need a leader that's a team player. Can you imagine your pilot quarreling with his co-pilot, not talking to the head hostess, not talking to the chief engineer, and you think the plane will fly? You need a team player who's going to put together a good team and play and work with that team. Then you need a pilot who is honest, who is sincere, who will tell you the truth. You are going through turbulence. Let him explain to you why you are going through turbulence and what he's going to do to get you out of turbulence. Not one who will be saying that, there's no turbulence. Don't worry, it's fake news. It's my enemies that are telling you that you're going through turbulence. Don't worry, the plane is perfectly all right. You're not going through turbulence until you crash land. You need a pilot who is honest. You need a pilot who will use the money for petrol to buy petrol. Not that they've given you money for petrol. He's put half the money in his box and hoping that the small petrol that is bought will take you all the way to Dulles. and tell you that he's bought full petrol. Meanwhile, he's put the money in his apartment in Dubai. You need a pilot who is not corrupt, who will tell you the truth, who will be honest with you, who will be sincere with you, who you can trust, who knows his job, who is determined that everybody on that plane will be comfortable and happy, and who is determined that he will land you where you are going safely. That's what you need in Nigeria. You know, a good man, a compassionate man, an honest man, a hardworking man, a man who will ensure that you get to where you're going and everybody is happy. That's what you need in Nigeria. You know, Sheikh Al Maktoum said, the job of a leader is to make his people happy. The job of a leader is to make his people happy. If you are leading a country and there's one person crying, like Jesus said, one sheep lost, you must go and look for that sheep and find out, why are you crying? What's the problem? How can I solve your problem? Not let him cry it all. It's not important. He has no electoral value. It's not important. He's not one of us. So he can cry. What kind of arrogance is that? And that's what we have today in Nigeria. Selfish, arrogant, indifferent leadership who want to corner the resources of the aircraft just for themselves. You can't take it. We can't take it. It's unacceptable.
You know, I think we are probably going to have more sessions like this with you, because I'm sure we could go on for the next couple of hours and it will still be inexhaustible. But I know that there are quite a few number of people that are waiting anxiously to ask you questions. So before we do that, Lara, are you ready to launch the polls, please? We have
Yes,
two sets of questions on this. You know, you've talked a lot about the leadership criteria, and that's why we developed that assessment tool. And you talked about the visionary leader, the one with integrity, that's passionate, committed to the people. So these polls are going to, for us to just get a sense of our understanding of who those leaders are. And we put the three running. Lara, over to you. If you could just walk us through the two sets of questions that we have in the polls.
Thank you. So we have 10 questions. These are straightforward questions that we should be able to breeze through within 1 to 2 minutes. Each question is very straightforward, just to check our pause. Based on all of our conversations over the months, well, where we're leaning in terms of our decisions in selection and in our votes on Saturday. So I think it's easier for each and every one of us to just read through, and so that we can take some time off of this and continue with the conversation. I think the questions are very straightforward, to be honest. It's like the Nigeria we see. Does anyone have any question around any of this question as they're answering?
Yeah, some people have already started taking taking the poll. So, Mr.
And
Chairman,
I'll give us another minute to finish it up before collating it.
So should we, maybe we can take questions while people are completing the poll, because there are two sets, right?
I'll leave the poll open and then we can take questions whilst other people are finishing up.
Okay. So we have some hands up ready to ask questions, and I'm going to go with Auntie BC. She has her hand up. Please go ahead, Ma. First hand.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, Ma, we can hear you.
Okay, good evening. First of all, I want to again commend Pastor Ituah for this initiative, and he has let us know why he has undertaken it, because of his passion and his innate, can we say, makeup to make things better. And so I've been wondering quite a bit. So this is the kind of forum we need to educate one another and to bring us all maybe to the same kind of level of thinking. So having said that, he has done a fantastic job. There's very little to add. He has covered the ground so well because he's somebody who is involved. I think that was a book written because I'm involved, and you can see his passion. So I want to make a few, maybe those to add to the excellent presentation that Ituah has made. My very job group. Congratulations for this, and I commend you, and I wish more people are like you. Anyway, first of all, I think what we need is a reorientation, restructuring of our minds, which will lead to transformation of our thinking and then of our actions. So that is a spiritual matter in the sense that it has to do with our minds. That's why it's a spiritual matter. So we need that restructuring. How do we get that restructuring? What is it to be based on? As Ituah has said, see, we need education. Starting with the history of Nigeria, which he has very excellently briefly outlined, for people to know that Nigeria has not always been like this. All those born in the 21st century, people who are 23 years and below, don't have much idea, if any, about what Nigeria was like in the 50s, just before we got independence, and soon after independence, before the first coup. So people need to know that Nigeria has not always been like this, and it must not continue to be like this. That's the first thing. We have to know where we are coming from. And I'm happy that the criminal act of removing history from school curriculum has been corrected, and we can now have history back. Because, I mean, anyway, don't let us go into that. So we need to know what was there before. We need to know what life was like before. So there was a young pastor who really interviewed a lot of elderly people for them to relate to the younger ones what life was like in their own times. People may not believe that when I was in university in Ibadan, 1959 to 62, we were one in a room, not 20 in a room. We were one in a room, and we ate decently in dining rooms and so on. We had good food and all that. So university life was a pleasant one, not the kind of slums that we have now. So people need to know, that's the first thing. They need to know, have an idea of what it was and what we should aim at or even improve upon. That's the second line. Second thing, I think, be practical. Ituah has given his own personal example, and it has to start from home. So charity begins at home. So parents themselves need to be conscientized, need to be reorientated to teach their children, not just by precepts and what they say, but by what they do. That was the case of one of our leaders. Sorry if I'm talking too much. I will soon finish.
Because we have quite a few hands up, ma. So that's why I was trying
one of our leaders who stole money, who stole money, and his sons stole part of that money. When they challenged, it was not even his money. So he stole it from the state, and I'm stealing it from him. So it's that kind of thing. So let me quickly finish. There is a lot of impunity, no sanctions. Even some governors who are jailed for stealing state money were granted presidential pardon. For goodness sake, what message are you sending to people? So we need exemplary leaders who are passionate, who are committed, and who sees leadership as a service and who want to benefit the ordinary people. And finally, you see, Nigeria is not a nation. Let's just not see. I never call Nigeria a nation. It's a country. And so there's no unanimity as to where we want to go, what we want to do. Some people believe in a 10-year-old girl getting married, and others don't believe it. So we are not a nation. We don't have the same values. So it's better we really have a way of making sure that no one section tries to impose its own values on others. The only times that Nigerians feel like Nigerians is when there's a football match, international. So we need a national identity. And that comes from fairness, from equity, and from honesty. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ma. And we're going to take two more, and then please keep your comments as brief as possible. We are up on the hour, and so we would like to get as many people in as possible. So Miss Oyewumi, Miss Susan Oyewumi, if you can go ahead and ask your question or your comment.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My question, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Please go ahead with your question.
My question is, when you find yourself amongst people that are not ready to accept a positive change, what can be done? Like you have, you're surrounded by a society, you're ready to make a change, and you give them the concept. And even when there was a particular scenario that I had to even call one of the like a PA to one of the candidates in the party, and the man told me that, see, they will milk for me. No matter the idea you throw, it's a good one, but they will turn the tables around to be able to milk from it. In that scenario, what can be done? Because as Christians, if we sit back and say, oh, let us leave them to do it, they don't want a change. We are not imputed. We ourselves are not ready for a change. But when you want to make a change, and the people that are surrounded, that are seated they are surrounded by, negative impressions or thoughts or ideas, they see you as, when did she join off what we are enjoying? What can be done? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Auntie Adesua, you are up next. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Basically, I believe we all have an idea what is wrong with our country. What we're actually looking for is how the solution. And I believe the basic problem is a fundamental issue. It's something that is deep-rooted. Pastor Ituah has mentioned some of it. Our background, our upbringing, the foundation is so important. You can't give what you don't have. And then the other thing is we need somebody who has passion, somebody who believes in the country, but also the people also have to believe in it. The person has to have the trust of the people, and we also have to be able to give the person all that he needs, the cooperation that he needs. If we want to be honest with ourselves, we have all contributed one way or the other to the situation we're in today, either by will or by omission, whatever. We have found ourselves in some compromising situations. Nobody will say there is saint, but how do we correct this situation? Is there a way to turn things around? Maybe start with the young ones, the unborn ones, or the ones that have just been born, because there's a mindset. And even the little ones, the ones that are growing up now, they're growing up with a mindset that it's so out of this world that we really can't understand. So it's a deep-rooted thing, and how do we get out of it? It's a big issue. That's what is a solution I think we should be looking at. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, do you want to take those three comments? If you could do it briefly, and then we do the next launch, and then take the next set of questions.
I think so. Maybe we take them in lots of three each to help. I want to thank my auntie, Professor Shomi, for her comments. It's more like a comment and all that. And I think I agree with her in terms of reorientation of our minds, transformation of our thinking and education. Even the Bible says so. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your minds. So it's all starts with the mind. Yemisi Oyewumi, I want to thank her for her question. What you've described is what always happens. One of the most difficult things for people to tolerate is change. And in every situation, you'll find a lot of people who are not willing, who are not ready to change, and a lot of naysayers. They are the Tobiases, or who don't want Nehemiah to build the wall. But your response is not to give up. You know, that's what Churchill said. Never give up, never, never give up, never give up. You keep at it, you keep at it, and you keep at it, and you keep at it. Especially when you know that biblically, spiritually, and morally, you are right. You know, usually people who are right are sometimes in the minority. But if they keep at it, and they keep at it, and they keep at it, and they keep at it, they will find that very soon what they're trying to propagate will stand. There's nothing else to do than to just keep at it and keep telling people. It takes a while for you to get people to see things the right way up. As for my sister Adesua, yes, upbringing is important. We've all contributed one way or the other. I agree. What we now need is how do we solve these problems? And there's only two ways, as far as I know. Like I said before, if we're gifted, and God somehow helps us to find the right leader, then that is easy. That is the fastest way. The same way Lee Kuan Yew did for Singapore, and the same way Maktoum is doing for Dubai. But otherwise, we have to now do it organically. And my appeal is to people like yourself who know a bit better to begin to get a lot more involved. So it's like train the trainer, or recruit the recruiter. So if I'm able to recruit 12 people who are saying what I'm saying and this and that, and 12 people are able to recruit another 12 each, and 144 people are able to recruit another 12 each, then bit by bit, over time, the solution will come and the fires will begin to be lit. There's no other way. There's no other way. What has been missing thus far is that everybody else in Nigeria is folding their hands and they're waiting for the next man to do it. They're waiting for, why can't we have good leaders? You can't have good leaders when you have bad followers. It is the followers that become the leaders. So let each man, first of all, sort out his house and train his children well. Let each school train their pupils well. Let each church train its congregation well. And stop all this prosperity teaching and blah, 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 and just convenience teaching. Let us be honest with ourselves. But we just need one or two people. That's what Margaret Mead says. It says, never forget that a small group of people in this place doing the right thing can change the world. It says, never forget that a small people doing the right thing can change the world. It says, as a matter of fact, it is the only thing that ever has. It will start as a small group, but as you continue to say it and talk about it, it's like ALG, small group, then it's growing bit by bit. More and more people are getting engaged and getting involved. And we just need to continue to do more like that. There's no other option that I can see, except if God comes down and brings the transformation himself.
Thank you. Before I hand over to Lara to do the to launch the second poll, this came from Trinity's House Command the Morning today, and it's so apt, and I just have to read it. When leadership is inspired, part 1. The fact that not everyone is inspired to lead is the reason why we are confronted with a leadership breakdown today. No doubt, one way or the other, we have assumed leadership, and the reason we are not successful in that little circle of leadership is that we are not inspired to take up the responsibility. Most of us are parents, and in our homes, whether we believe it or not, we are leaders. How do you lead in your home? A lot of families are in crisis, yet there are leaders there. Homes, churches, and countries are rooted in turbulence and crisis today because our leaders are not inspired by God. Many of them just want power. They are interested in commando style leadership. In fact, they are more rulers than leaders. Their intentions are ungodly, and they surround themselves with bad advisors who are only interested in retaining their offices and the offices of their principals. They are not interested in providing inspired advice and the offices of their, and because they are bereft of creative ideas, they offer nothing because you cannot give what you do not have. They reel out policies that sink their subjects deeper into impoverishment. Today, in our country, almost everything has broken down. Security, the economy, and when these things happen, people break down too, which is exactly the situation in Nigeria today. Elections are coming up, and Nigerians must ensure that those they elect as leaders are concerned about their welfare and well-being. As Nigerians, we must come to a collective agreement not to tolerate any form of bad leadership. We must reject anyone who has a proven track record of incompetence, corruption, greed, wickedness, and avarice to hold any position of influence in the country. If people understand that leadership is a divine trust that God has entrusted to them, and that they are accountable to God who gave them the leadership assignment, they will do better for themselves, and God and society will celebrate them. May God give us inspired leaders in Jesus' name. I just had to read that because that's the Command Your Morning devotion for today. So before, Lara, I'm going to hand over to you for the second set of poll. And if you can speak on the results of the first one, and then Pastor Sonny, I'll hand over to you for the next, for you to take over the next set of questions.
Yeah, thank
Lara?
you. I'm just sharing the results of the first set of questions, and thank you to all the 61 people that participated in this. I would still leave this up to see, because I see more of us just joined and others might want to participate in answering those questions. And these questions were really geared towards, checking our pulse on how we choose and preparing for Saturday. What are those things that are guiding our decisions, and how we plan to select and vote for the leader or whoever we're choosing, we're electing on Saturday. So thank you. I am going to leave this on for a bit. And then I'll go on to sharing the next set of questions. The next set of questions is pretty much, let me stop this for a minute. The next set of questions would, 1 minute, is to add more colors to the same. This is another set of 10 questions around the top 3 candidates that we are seeing based on different other polls, and just for you to assess them. I'm sorry, assess them on different criteria that we put here. And yes, I'm going to launch this, and if anyone have questions around them, please feel free to ask. But I would love if all of us, we have 157 people on the call right now, if we can all take a minute or two to answer these questions, it'll be great. Thank you.
We are now 164 people on the call, but I guess only 157 can see it, right? So Pastor Sonny, are you in? Mr. Chairman, are you ready for the next set of questions?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Please encourage people to fill the questions and answer the questions, please, so that we can get some kind of results out of this.
Okay. Yeah, please go ahead.
Great. Thank you very much, Jumoke.
Thank you.
That
Thank
was
you, Lara.
excellent. Mr. Chairman, good evening, and you have spoken very well and passionately. My job is to take the next set of questions. I think like the question you always ask most of the guests that come is, so from here, what are the kind of step-by-step things we should do? we are where we are. 2 days, we have been looking forward to this election for the last almost 2 years, preparing for it. Now we are 2 days to that final day. Before I take the next set of questions, what are some of the step-by-step things people should do? I know Jumoke have asked you many of those questions already, but I can't resist asking you once more. What should we do, sir, so that we get it right this time?
In this election, or get it right with Nigeria going into the future? What do you mean step by step?
So after this election, we are going to have sort of like a review. Irrespective of who wins, what should Nigerians do? How do we engage the government to make sure that the government will try to at least necessarily do what the people want?
I think the first thing is who will bail the cat. And I think everyone should try and bail their own cat as they can in their own corner. Okay, so Sonny, you're in a corner there. You have some people with you. You have some people who you have some influence over. You have associated with LLG. You know a few things. You have to collect the people together, Gogi, everybody. Oh yeah, let's talk. What do we want out of this Nigeria? And so on and so forth. And you want to carry that results of what you have done with your own group of people and hit the federal government or hit the National Assembly or both of them and let them know that in your corner in Ireland or in Scotland or in Abuja or in Anthony Village, this is what we want. So the first thing is to try and get as many people as possible saying what they want out of Nigeria. If we're able to instigate a national discourse or the other, a formal national discourse or the other, it will be wonderful. If we're not, let us all continue to do it informally and continue to let the government know that the people have a voice and they have needs. Number two is that we must always be ready to evaluate and assess government. We must be ready to evaluate and assess government. We no longer should take their word for it. We must all become auditors to audit what government has done. I tell a story that when I was a student in University of Hull in England, I bought a small car, an Alfa Romeo Alfa Sort, and I parked it in front of my house and I would drive to go to school and come back. Then one day, I think just before Christmas or before I went to Nigeria for Christmas, my vehicle license expired. Okay, only for me to get a call. My vehicle license expired on a Tuesday. And on a Wednesday, I got a call from the police or somebody that my vehicle license has expired. I should go and renew it. Or the lady living next to me, one old mama, we used to call them Mama Insurance. She knocked on my door. Yes, that's what happened. She knocked on my door and she told me that my vehicle license has expired. I should go and renew it. She was a bit nosy, nosing into my business. But what that tells me is that my business is everybody's business. Nigeria's business is everybody's business. We all should get involved. We all should poke nose into what the government is doing. So Fashola, you built this road. How much did you build it for? Did we get value for money? How much of it went into the road? How much of it was graft? You know, my friend, you built this bridge. How much did you build it for? What happened? This and that. We must hold our leaders at every level, local government, states and federal, accountable. We must not just accept everything they say, look like and sinker. If they know that the people are watching and the people will question them, and we're not even just waiting for National Assembly. You know, the reason why Britain works is because Boris Johnson calls he calls for no party during COVID. Then they find out that he's going to party. A few months later, he had lost his job for going to party because people are aware. They say, you can't do that. How can you tell us not to go to party? Then the next thing we're seeing you dancing and drinking in a party. It's irresponsible. Can that happen in Nigeria? No. But it has to begin to happen. It has to begin to happen. You, this governor, why do you have 18 cars in your convoy? Why? What are you doing with 18 cars in your convoy? What does that mean? Who is paying for these 18 cars? You, this president, why do you have all these 20 cars in your convoy? What are you doing with it? Are you, what is it? Why is it so expensive for me to maintain you? You must ask questions. What are you people doing in education? Why should the schools be out of school for 8 months? Why are we waiting only for ASU to be the ones complaining? So we must all engage government and begin to ask questions. Number 3, we all must also change ourselves internally. We must change ourselves internally. You who are driving one way, stop driving one way. You who are spitting outside your car door, stop spitting. You who are weaving on the streets of Lagos, stop it. We must all be the change we want to see and change ourselves and hold ourselves accountable so that we can come to equity with clean hands. And we must encourage everybody in society, the churches, the mosques, civil society, to do the same. If you want a street to be clean, let every man clean his own house and the front of his house, and the street will be clean. So we must speak to ourselves also and know what is right and wrong, and practice what is right from what is wrong, and begin to hold ourselves accountable bit by bit, organically, over time. If we keep reinforcing this message all over the place, hey, my friend, you can't do this. Hey, my friend, it's not acceptable. Hey, my friend, stop that. Hey, my friend, this is the right way, and so on and so forth. Bit by bit, the message will begin to cascade down. But it must start with the few that know better, and they must not get tired and weary, and they must keep repeating it.
Thank you very much, sir. It's very excellent. Great. So I will take Yemi, Stephen Ipalibo Lawson, and Stephen Oshukeye in that order. So I'll start with Yemi first.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Pastor Ituah. Fine, thank you, sir. I just have, I guess, comments to follow up on what you said in terms of selecting leaders, because it's something that's come up in the chat quite a bit. Another way to think about it, there was former Governor Fashola that talked about it in a conversation around debates, that if we think of people we're electing into office as people who apply for jobs, that's number one, why they should make themselves available for a debate, because a debate in a sense is your job interview. But as we select, just think about anybody. Would I hire this person to lead a company that I own? Would I expect them to return profits? But when it even comes to governance, would I literally hire this person to run my life? If we think about it, not just president, senator, House of Rep that we're electing on Saturday, and then in 2 weeks, governor and state House of Assembly members, people who make policies that shape our lives, from schools to healthcare to roads to quality of air that we breathe. Would I hire this person to have my best interest and do their job correctly? Another comment that was in the chat is that delegates, it selects leaders, not the populace. Yes, in terms of process, but your delegates are still members of society. And the whole idea of bad leaders, bad followers, it's a catch-22, chicken egg. I would put more weight on the leaders because they have the opportunity to shape society and provide direction. But as citizens as well, especially, Pastor Ituah is a pastor, so I'm sure quite a number of people here are Christian, or even if not a Christian, people of faith. Our faiths, be it Christian or Islam, prescribe certain ways of behaving. Neither of them support corruption. There's a joke that if you take all the denominations of Christianity and say on Mondays, all the Baptists will not collect a bribe. On Tuesdays, the Anglicans, whatever, you get the idea. So part of that narrative is that as people of faith, people have values of some sort to behave appropriately. The choices we'll make will be different, and it would show up in who we decide we want to represent us and how we engage in the process. And then lastly, there's been a lot of messaging going around that if you have your VIN from your voter's card, if you are able to clarify that you are in INEX database and you have the last 5 digits of your VIN, you will be able to vote on Saturday. That is not true. If you do not have your PVC, you will not be able to vote. Please spread the word. I know INEC disenfranchised quite a number of people, by making the process of picking up your PVC difficult. But be that as it may, you do need your PVC to vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Let's take Stephen Ipalibo-Lawson.
Pastor Sonny, can you take two more since we have a lot of hands up? Maybe we can do 4.
Yes, I'm taking them. Stephen is up next.
All right, thank you,
Pastor. Okay.
Thank you, Pastor Sonny. Thank you, Chairman, Pastor Ituah. It's always a great opportunity for us to be a part of this small group that I strongly believe will make a change. Pardon my background noise. Number one, the elections are just here. Saturdays are going to happen, and after Saturdays, what is the next direction? And so for me, beyond the election, we need to be able to create a movement, somewhat of a consortium where I can see that on this group, we have over 160 people. How do we begin to subscribe to a given definition of what we want Nigeria of the future to be? Just like we have discussed about the candidates that we want. And I remember when I met Pastor Ituah sometime last year or so, when he came on my show, his position was like, there is a candidate and this is the definition of that candidate. So whoever it is that fits into that definition will be the person we should vote for. And I think we need to carry up that movement, because beyond the elections on Saturday, Nigeria yet has not gotten to the point of El Dorado. How are we going to define that ideal, and what timelines are we going to put in place? And this is part of the essence why we need to all get involved. Nobody is going to do the work for other people to come and benefit. Everybody has a role to contribute. And for me, what is the way forward beyond the election? Secondly, is it possible for this poll that we have shared here to be made public? Because that itself will help in direction towards the election and beyond. If there's a way we can make this poll public, I think it will have one or two impacts in the direction we have to go as a people. Thank you very much.
Very much, Stephen. So I will take Stephen Oshikaye now. Unmute yourself, sir.
Okay, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to thank God for our pastor. I mean, my question is just like the last speaker, how will this group continue on political education even after this election? Because I discover that it is only when the presidential election comes that there is a lot of noise. It's like, on my own point of view, I may be wrong, the chairman will correct me. It's like the president of Nigeria is more or less, maybe because of the constitution, like we are electing a dictator. Is more powerful than any other organs of government, maybe judiciary and legislature. So the 1999 constitution, I want the chairman to just comment a little that what are we expecting maybe the next leader to do? There have been 2 constitutional conferences, I think one by Obasanjo and one by Jonathan, but they never get headway with it. So is that the constitution that gives the president so much power over every other organ? And secondly, this group, will we continue to educate and mobilize and empower the people on election, starting from the councillor down, especially the legislator? Now everybody concentrate on the president. Whereas those in the legislature too, a lot of them are just having a free way. You know, where I am, few years ago, we have one kind of president that is so bogus, but because of the legislator, and also the people and some, even in his own party, they were able to curb his excesses and they fire him after 4 years. He struggled, he wants to introduce things, but no, everybody, even the legislator and everybody, they pull him down. because of the structure. It's very, Nigeria talk about structure. I don't know the structure they talked about. So I want the chairman to just enumerate a little about maybe the constitution. How powerful is our president constitutionally that makes him to, during the election of president, that's when we see the noise. But these councillors, the councillor, even the governor and all of them, they are just doing. So that is just my question. I think that's two questions. And I know the chairman will be able to put it together when answering. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Chairman, so in answering those three or commenting on those three questions, we still have a few people, and then we have barely 15 minutes to go. So let's look at that. You can answer them, sir.
I'll try and do my best. Luckily, Yemi's is more of a comment. Selecting leaders is like somebody applying for a job. And that's why I use the analogy of the pilot. If you are going to choose a pilot to fly your Boeing 747, he has to apply for the job. You have to evaluate him. You have to test him. And that's what we must do in leadership. Not only that now, we must even do what we call head hunting. You are not just going to wait for people to apply for a job in Nigeria anymore. You are going to go and head hunt. This is what I was telling our fathers before this process started. Won't you be go and head hunt and look for somebody who you already know is somewhere in the world can do this job? When I'm an HR consultant, you can either advertise and let people come, or you can go and head hunt. So sometimes you actually head hunt. So we've come to a stage in Nigeria where David was head hunted by Israel. They say, you are the one who led us in and out when Saul was king. Come and be our king because we know you have the skills. And they didn't make a mistake. There are a few people who have that skills. One thing I'm also thinking of as a theory is to divide Nigeria into zones, our 6 zones, the north, the south, and have some kind of presidency based on zones. So we don't have this expensive presidential system, okay? It can either be zones or we go back to our 3 regions. So this region, this year, in fact, we don't even compete for presidency anymore. You compete for vice presidency, okay? You people go and choose from among yourselves who you want to be vice president. You can even have 2 or 3 or 4 vice presidents, and then they take it in rotation. You are vice president this year, next year you become president or whatever it is, or it's every 6 years or something. So there's also continuity. So if the northern region or the northern zone or the south-south zone chooses a man and they say this is the person we want to be vice president, he becomes vice president. After 6 years tenure of the former president, then he becomes automatic president. Some organizations do that so that we know where we are. Okay. So that is what it is. We can think of that. Stephen, I thank you very much. And I want to assure you that this movement or what we're doing is here to stay. And whoever wins the election will continue to speak truth to power and will continue with our electorate education and national emancipation. Already we're trying to start something like a school, a leadership school that will be doing formal training for people. There are a few of them, but they cannot be enough. Mr. Oshika, thank you very much for your questions. I think one of the things that the new president must do very quickly is to have yet another constitutional conference so that we can end this issue of the legality or the inappropriateness of this 1999 constitution that was hastily put together by Abubakar Abdulsalam in a very, very rapid way. Let's go back and let's have a constitutional conference that will bring about a proper constitution for Nigeria that we can all sign to, or we go back to the 1959 constitution or whatever it is that was the bedrock and then amend that as appropriate for the current state of affairs in our country. That might even be a cheaper and a less expensive process. Go back to 1959, bring it forward for amendments and improvement as a basis. So instead of 3 regions, maybe it will now be 6 zones. But the principles on which Nigeria was founded might remain the same. So that might be just the easiest way to do it. And then we can then have a proper constitution. And I want to assure him also that this platform will continue until Jesus comes.
Okay, thank you very much, Pastor. We will take the next set of questions. So we have Noyo Edem, Fumi Ajayi Tomori, Samuel Dada. I will add Ben Prince. So after that, if we have time, I will take the last three, AA, Otaji, and BC Awayemi, but I hope we'll have time. So very briefly, please don't take too much time so that Pastor can quickly answer the question. Noyo.
Let them please go straight to the point. No courtesies, no greetings.
Okay, I've unmuted you. Noyo.
Okay, thank you. I've just been unmuted. Thank you, Pastor. It's difficult not to greet you, to say thank you for what you have done so far. So I'm greeting you. My question, I know that it has been asked by some people. I'm more interested in the processes, how we are going to sustain what we have started. It may involve creating or developing a new curriculum for the school and for the public. So I'm just trying to get an insight on what this group intends to do beyond the election. Because to change the orientation of a people, their mindset, their perception of reality and the world view, that's a long process. It's going to be a process that will take so many years for us to accomplish what we are trying to do. So I'm just trying to get an insight. I know it will involve money, it will involve lobbying, a lot of things. Thank you, Pastor, again. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Let me give you a short answer to your question. There's a lady called Jumoke Akintelo. I will ask her to call you, and then she can have a very long conversation with you to let you know what our plans and our thinking is, so that we don't spend too much time on that here. Otherwise, we can have a special session to discuss exactly what we're thinking. We've had a few of them, but we can always repeat it. But we have clear plans of what we want to do to contribute to the reorientation and the redirection of Nigeria.
All right. Thank you. Fumi Ajayi Tomori.
Yes.
Go ahead, Fumi.
To the whole house, especially to Pastor Ituah and Sonny Enebi. I want to comment that a lot has been done in the last 2 years, but we must not make it a talk shop. You have said you want to have some leadership school and things like that. We must consolidate and strengthen. The Nigerian problem is a huge problem, and we must not go the way of Haiti or some other countries who just disintegrate it, but it's a big, big problem. You have the political division from the historical facts that the pastor gave us, which is very true. The size of it, ideas, when I come to this forum, I just laugh because we are a speck. When you look at the size, if you look at the size of the people who went to meet this man yesterday, I wondered how we will fit into such a crowd. They are the masses moving things in the wrong direction in this country. I'm sorry to say, they are not all illiterates, but they are politically, they are intelligentially negative. And therefore, to change them, it takes a lot. And that's why I'm going to ask that we must step up on our partnership with like minds so that the impact must be to be felt. From here to Sokoto, to Maiduguri, and to Port Harcourt. And therefore, we must partner with like minds. There are 774 local governments. We must try to reach out to those local areas and have people Pastor, you will remember when we were all in Ibadan in those days, the intelligentsia like your mom and dad, they had their own group. But the illiterates, the ward people, had their meetings and everybody coalesced into an effective Western region. Unless and until we pull people together, it's going to be difficult. And at this time of the election, the people will decide this election. They are larger than us. They are not as savvy as us. So I like us to know what our weaknesses and how to strengthen, because unfortunately, since 1999, even some of the groups that were trying to work have not been effective in penetrating. It's not their fault. You know, the size, the resources required, the time, the people. We must learn. Those are the lessons we must learn now, that from tomorrow, we must intensify all our efforts. And I like it the last week, and we had said this to Mr. Sonny and maybe I had sent you something about social contract, because you cannot make laws and regulations for people or even ideas for people without having a social contract. Our values, our orientation is different, but we must bring it together to say, this is right, this is wrong. And when we all agree, we have a social contract. We agree to honesty. We agree to merit. We agree to visionary leadership. Otherwise, as one of the speakers said, you just be talking above their heads, and they will laugh at you, because behind their mouth, most people want now is to have their share of the billionaires' fund, trust fund. If they can tap 10 million, 20 million, is a lot to them. And that's where many of today's politicians stand. And that is why our work is really enormous. And then, Pastor, we must mobilize these financial resources, time resources, skill resources, so that we can penetrate the whole of Nigeria. Because if we want to make an impact, it's not only in Lagos. It's not only, it has to be on all parts of the country. Otherwise, our efforts, our results will be limited.
Thank you, ma'am.
I think, let me just comment on that quickly. That's a brilliant suggestion. And it's going to be one of the things that we're going to take on board, where we have leadership development centers in each one of the local government areas, where people gather to be educated, to be informed, to be trained, and to be analyzed, and so on and so forth. We will do it. We will do it. We will do it. And by God's grace, we will provide the resource.
Thank you very much, Pastor. Samuel Dada.
Please, excuse me, 1 minute. Please, Mr. Enebi, we must extend. It will require a lot of financial resources. A lot of people want to contribute. They don't know how. Please, can you give us more information? And somebody was saying something about the WhatsApp, so that we can effectively communicate. This assignment is serious and it will take time. We must move from point one to a better point within the next 4 years, please.
Okay, ma. I absolutely hear you. Pastor, you want to provide, or should I?
I think between you and Jumoke, you can provide details of bank accounts and things like that, and blah, blah, blah. And then you can answer the question I won't answer or respond to it. But it's a serious thing we're trying to do, and everybody must be very serious too.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you very much, ma. We're absolutely on it, and we'll post the details of the account for your contribution, and we intend to take this a step higher and then get more people involved as much as possible. We have a WhatsApp group. We would post it also on the chat, so that, or if you drop your number, you can be added to that WhatsApp group. So if you drop your number on the chat, so that you can get more information. Thank you very much. Samuel, that I'll go ahead with your comment or question.
Okay, thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Pastor, thank you so much for this beautiful work you've been doing. I think it's almost 2 years now that I've joined this platform. So far, so good. Here we are. The election is here under 48 hours. And I can see from the polls that people are more of a Peter Obi. But I will say something. I don't say anything that is going to change, even if Peter Obi wins the election. Because one thing we need to understand about Nigeria, when you started your discussion about the history of Nigeria, the amalgamation, the 1960s and everything, Nigerians, in quotes now, we have never decided who becomes our leader. It has been an oligarchy system, where some political elite determines who becomes who for us. Even since from the Fourth Republic, 1999, up to date. The emergence of Obi, out of them, if we should look at it very well, in-depthly, the political elite that brought us where we are today, they were saying that they endorse him. I'm sure if Obi becomes president tomorrow, it will be so difficult for him to govern. I'm telling you, sir. And most of us that voted Obi will be upset with him again, that he's not doing that which we have called him to do. Sir, I want you to look at it in-depthly. We need a brown new political party that is devoid of any political elite. I think we should, if truly want to salvage that country and our lives and property, we should start looking into that. Because these political elites we are seeing today, they are working for their own interests. And I tell people, when you steal people's money, you build mansions for yourself, and you want me to give you the key. No, I will never give you the key. That is what we are saying. But when you give them the key, they know already that they will come back, the people will come back and revenge. So they will never give you the key to that liberty, to that freedom of education and freedom of speech, an enabling environment. They will never. It is their own agenda. When you are talking, Pastor, you said bad followers turns to bad leaders. I disagree with you, Pastor. It has always been that the bad leaders produce the bad followers. You as a leader in your church, or a good leader, if you should look at the people that comes to your church, they will make sure that they emulate your character as a pastor. That is it. There's no two way to it. If anybody is not working in the direction of God, they will be forced to go out because majority of well-cultured people is a fact. So in case of Nigeria, it has never happened before. And they come with the division of this tribe issue, this sentiment. So, Pastor, let's look in-depthly. We have candidates, guys that are working vigorously with all sincerity in this political system of today, younger generations that are below 60 years. Let's look how we can bring all of them together to have a new political party that is devoid of the old political elite. If we refuse to do this, we will still come back 4 years and still be lamenting. I'm just saying this as an advice. And we need to do more of political education, because most Nigerians, what we tried to do today was a very great one, like trying to bring people back to their history. People need to identify whom they are. Like I used to say, before 1914, nobody was in Nigeria. And if we need to cohabitate, we need to respect one another. I believe that living together, it helps economically. But in a situation where the northern civilizations, they believe that nobody can go against their system of ruling. We can't develop. So we need to understand that. Can we cohabitate with such people? We need to have people from different regions and tribes to decide how do we want to live as a Nigeria. But if you still want to leave it into the hands of this political elite that determines who becomes the councillor, who becomes the senator, we go nowhere. They are going there to work for their own selfish interest. Is it Remi Tinubu that is in the parliament we speak for the Nigerians or the Yoruba? No. She will go there to speak for the party that put him there, and the party's interest is for individuals to enrich themselves. So, Pastor, let us look inwardly into all those things so that we can tell our people to understand how it functions in Nigeria. They brought Obasanjo for us.
Okay,
people
all right. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Not moving forward.
Samuel,
It's all right, Samuel. You are so passionate.
I'm passionate.
The issue is who will build the cat and what came first, the chicken or the egg. All I know is that in our corner here in ALG, we will try our best and keep moving this country one way or the other. Okay. Not many people will agree with what we're trying to do. It doesn't matter. We'll continue to do what we need to do and hope that as we do it, a lot more people will join us and be part of what we're doing. That's the only way. There's no other way that we can do. And it will take time. It's not going to happen overnight. You know, a lot of these so-called first world countries, America, Britain, Germany, they didn't happen overnight, you know. I told some people that the Americans, they were barbarians. The British, they were barbarians. They were Vikings. They used to eat one another. They were cannibals. The Romans, the Greeks, you have people, they put them in the lion, this thing, and let lions eat them for sports and all that. They were wicked people. So there's a tribe, they used to skin people alive, you know, but they evolved over time. And with the help of Christianity, a group of small people, Jesus Christ, Paul, and, you know, all those people who preach the gospel, they killed them, they murdered them because they resented the gospel. They kicked against the gospel. It was a problem to print the Bible. The man who printed the Bible for the first time, what's his name? He did it at the expense of his life. They killed him for daring to print the Bible. But here we are today, after years of evolution, you have what they call first world. And some people think that they are superior to other people. No. In fact, African society was far more egalitarian and developed than the Western society at a certain time. But because they had the power of invention, especially the invention of the gun, they were able to use the gun to subdue most other people. But it takes time. You know, everybody thinking that Nigeria will change overnight. I think you are begging the question and you're asking for something that's almost impossible. It took America 200 years to get to where they got to. We're still 60 years and counting. So it's going to take time, and people should be ready to put in the time, the effort, the energy, the sacrifice, the determination. Barack Obama became president, but Martin Luther King lost his life so that Barack Obama could become president. It took 40 years after Martin Luther King died for Barack Obama to become president. These things take time, and we need to know that and begin to work on the process. And that's what we're doing here. That's what we're doing here. If people have gained and benefited from ALG, it's better than they were 4 years ago before we started ALG. There are a lot of more people are more informed, including myself, who started the ALG. I have vast amounts of information that I got from this platform that I didn't know before. Getting involved a bit with the political process now, here and there, I know a lot more about the politics of Nigeria and how very difficult it can be. But bit by bit, we will solve this problem. We will solve it. And if we are not able to solve it in our lifetime, other people will continue from wherever we stop. So let nobody be too anxious and too angry about Nigeria. Let's just focus on where we're going.
Okay, thank you very much, Pastor. So the account has been put up. For those of you asking for the account details, I think it's a Zenith Bank. We have the Naira account.
Is a Guarantee Trust Bank.
Okay, GTB, Guarantee Trust Bank. The name of the account is Tri-Africa Empowerment Foundation. That's the umbrella name that we use. You can take the details down for our Naira account. Is there 06. This thing is a bit sketchy here. I don't know why I'm not able to see it properly.
Sonny, are you almost 60 years?
No, I'm not. Never.
The current account 068 621.
Yeah. Go ahead.
4792. That's the current account in Naira. 068 621 4792. Naira current account. Then we have the USD, the GBP, and the Euro, all current accounts.
Okay.
The dollar account 068 912 7145. The dollar account again, 068-912-7145. Then the pound sterling account, 068-912-7152. The pound sterling account once again, 068-912-7152. While the euro account is 068-912-7169. Euro account once again, 068-912-7169. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I think these accounts will publish regularly. We might even need to open a Zelle account, because this thing we're doing is going to require a lot of money. And I'm praying that God will move the minds of people to put the to let us try and drive this, and at least try our best in this process. We're not going to stop until we are stopped, and nothing's going to stop us because we're going to get there. Sonny, please, you are going to say something.
No. Are we able to take more questions?
I don't think so. I think we've had a good innings.
We've had a good evening. So
maybe we'll have another platform like this where people can ask questions, especially of myself. I'll be happy to take those questions. Maybe they should post their questions to the platform. I'll respond. And we need to get the results of the poll anyway, which are like Lara to announce. And then we can...
So let me just end the post. Thank you, everybody. This next set of questions, we had a lot of people we had 117 of us, pen down our opinions around this poll out of the 136 participants. The questions we actually opined upon the first question was pretty much looking at the top 3 candidates and each candidate assessing.
Can you please share it?
It's been shared, right? Oh, shared. I'm sorry. I'm sharing it now. Okay. So the first questions, looking at the top 3 candidates, Atiku Abubakar, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and Peter Obi, based on their knowledge, which of these 3 candidates knows and acknowledges that a leader's success is not all their own doing? For Atiku Abubakar, we had 2% of our people said he is there. He knows and he acknowledges that his success is not his own doing. Bola Ahmed Tinubu got 18%, Peter Obi 80%. The second questions, assessing the 3 candidates, which one of them is connected to the heart of the people and surrounds themselves with people of truth and honesty. Atiku Abubakar got 1%, Tinubu got 15%, Peter Obi got 84%. Third question, which of the 3 is able to properly manage bureaucracy and politics? Atiku Abubakar got 6%, Bola Tinubu got 26%, and Peter Obi 68%. The fourth question, which one of them is a unifying leader? Atiku Abubakar got 3%, Bola Tinubu 18%, and Peter Obi 79%. Which of the 3 will lead Nigeria to a new dawn? We had Atiku Abubakar 2%, Bola Tinubu 11%, Peter Obi 87%. Which one of the 3 had good track record in public office? 0% for Atiku Abubakar, 19% for Bola Tinubu, and 81% for Peter Obi. Which one of the 3 was effective and successful in a prior office? Atiku Abubakar scored 2%, Bola Tinubu 25%, Peter Obi 74%. Generally, which one of them have good reputation, no criminal records or conviction? Atiku Abubakar 1%, Bola Ahmed Tinubu 3%, Peter Obi, 96%. Which of the three can represent the country well in global politics? Atiku Abubakar scored 3%, Bola Tinubu 10%, Peter Obi 86%. Which of the three demonstrates competence and capability? Atiku Abubakar scored 2%, Bola Tinubu 15%, Peter Obi 83%. That's basically our polls, how we all see things from everything that has been going on and our assessment of these candidates. Thank you, everyone that participated in this. And over to you, Pastor. I'll stop sharing.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Pastor, go ahead, son. Make your final
Sonny, go ahead, please.
No, I was just going to call you to make your final comment.
Well, we see the results of the polls. It looks like if there's a preference for Peter Obi on this platform, maybe this platform consists of a lot of bourgeois and elite people, I don't know, but this is what this platform has produced. And I would say that I don't know if I'm attracting my kind of people, but I agree largely with the results of this poll. I think clearly of the three people that are available, if it's in terms of youth and strength, at 61, 62, Peter Obi is there. And if it is in terms of record, proven record of least corrupt, I think he's also there. And if it's in terms of vigor and vision, he's there. He's not a saint. Everybody has their mistakes. There's no perfect person. I have my mistakes. I know what my people around me complain about me a lot about all the time, and so on and so forth. But we just have to make the best of a bad situation. And I do hope that somehow or the other, we can get things right. Somebody was saying that if Peter Obi wins the elections, Nigeria will not change drastically. But at least hopefully it will not get much worse than it is right now. And it will begin a process of change. It's going to take a lot to change Nigeria because the rot is so deep. But at least some things would begin to change. And then the next person who comes after will continue. You know, when a ship is going the wrong direction, even if you stop it, you've made progress from going in that direction. It may not now turn around and go in the right direction, but at least you stop it from going in the wrong direction. Then somebody else will come and turn it around because it has been stopped. And then somebody else will come to drive it in the right direction. But then when you get somebody who's going to jump in and keep going in the wrong direction, like we're going before, then we're heading for a precipice and disaster. So if all we get this time around is somebody who will even stop us from going in the wrong direction, I think we'd have made some progress. Then maybe when Sonny becomes president, it will turn us around to face the right direction.
Exactly.
So maybe later on, when I'm sure he's begging that I'll mention his name, Olu Victor becomes president, he will start to make us run in the proper direction. But if we don't even stop, then we're all going to drown. Nigeria needs to stop. We need to stop bleeding. You know, Jumoke says this all the time. We're bleeding. There's so much money being wasted. We had thought that Buhari would stop us from bleeding, but he made us bleed even more. That's my disappointment, because I thought he would stop us from bleeding, at the very least. So we have to stop bleeding. We have to stop killing one another. We have to stop having bandits run over the place. We have to stop herding cattle from Sokoto to Lagos and feeding ourselves with bad cattle. We have to stop, we have to start allowing children to go back to school and get an education. You know, we have to build one or two more roads and infrastructure. If that's all we can do, you know, and we have to start feeding ourselves as a nation. Nigeria should not import food. It's illegal, it's immoral, it's criminal that in a country with so much land is importing food. We grow what we eat what we grow. If all we can achieve in the next 4 years is that we stop importing food, Nigerians, instead of 20 million children out of school, is down to 2 or 3 million children out of school. if we can have, instead of 4 or 5 hours of light a day, we can have like 12 or 13 things. There's incremental improvement. Instead of the government spending 5 billion on itself and government jet up and down here and there, we are spending only 1 billion and we're using 4 billion to build schools and things and hospitals. We've made some progress. Instead of the Naira exchanging at 750 to 1, it begins to exchange at about maybe 500 to 1 or 400 to 1. We've made progress, and so on and so forth. Instead of us owing 12 trillion in debt, like Obasanjo did, we bring our debt down to 5 trillion. We've made some progress. And that's what we want, to begin to make progress. But I think that we can even do much better than that by just creating an environment in Nigeria where people can come and invest their money. And that is based on security and safety. That's what Dubai did. Create an environment where people came to invest. And there's no other country, maybe apart from China and India, that has the population and the demand for consumption and goods that Nigeria has. So why don't we produce before we consume? That's my prayer for Nigeria. Let us pray for Nigeria tonight, and let us wish Nigeria well. Let us decree and declare that it shall be well with this nation. Let us decree and declare that this nation will prosper. Let us decree and declare that the polls on Saturday will come. There will be no truncation thereof. It will be peaceful, and the right leader will emerge in the name of Jesus Christ. Let us declare and declare that Nigeria's fortunes will be turned around for the betterment of all of us. Let us declare and declare that Nigeria will be a nation where peace and justice reign, where our hopes will be fulfilled, where there will be a level playing ground, where children will no longer deal with themselves on the basis of religion or tribe, but on the basis of brotherhood. Let us pray that Nigeria will indeed become a nation, that what they created to fail will be an outstanding success, and all will be well with Nigeria. Let us pray for all the candidates, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Atiku Abubakar, Peter Obi, my good friend from Kano. Let us pray. Kwankwaso, my good friend from SDP Adebayo, and my good friend Kola Abiola, all of them, and all the others. Let us pray, Showore, that God will give them peace, God will give them understanding, that the elections will go right, they will go well, there will be no death, there will be no violence, there will be no anger, there will be no bitterness, and the will of God, above all, will be done. And everybody will join forces to build a nation where peace and justice will reign, where there will be inclusivity in governance, where the needs of the poor will be met, and where everybody will be free to practice their craft, practice their trade, practice their religion, and live in peace with one another. I decree and declare that it shall be so in the name of Jesus Christ, so that the labors of our heroes past and the labors of our people present will not be in vain. Let us pray that there will be an end to corruption, to greed, to avarice, to bribery, to wickedness, in the name of Jesus. It shall be well with us all. In Jesus' name we have prayed, and Nigeria will be great again. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Pastor. God bless you, everyone. See you, after the election. We'll be here to analyze. I hope that by next Thursday, the results of the presidential election will have been announced. If not, at least we should have known the winner by then.
Definitely. So next Thursday, we'll be looking at what the potentials and the possibilities of the new government. Hopefully, by next Thursday, we'll be looking at what it portends for us. So the title next Thursday will be The New Government.
Okay.
New government. Okay. Auntie Lara.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for attending today's session. And we're looking forward to seeing you all next Thursday.
God bless you all. And let me thank everyone on the executive of NLS, ALG, you've done a phenomenal job. You've done an outstanding job. Only God and the good people of Nigeria will reward you in Jesus' name. Good night, everyone. God bless you.
You too.
Thank you, Pastor. Bye.
Thank you, Pastor.
Good night.
Thank you, Pastor.
Pastor Ituah.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
very
Bye,
much.
everybody.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Bye.
you
Good night, everyone.
Good